The jungle was silent, except for the hum of strange insects and the hiss of glowing plants that breathed in the dark. The human, Daniel, pushed branches aside with care, his boots sinking into the wet soil. He had come to gather samples of alien flora, but he was not alone. An alien girl named Saria walked ahead of him, her movements graceful, her pale green skin almost blending with the forest's eerie light. She was guiding him, but her sharp eyes scanned everything as if danger was always near. A sudden cry broke the silence. Saria flinched, her hand snapping to her shoulder. Daniel rushed forward and saw it, a parasite. Small, slick, and wriggling like a worm with legs had latched onto her skin. Its mouth was a ring of sharp teeth, pulsing as it dug deeper. She screamed, her claws tearing at the soil as she fell to her knees. Daniel grabbed a knife and sliced at the creature, but it slipped into her skin before he could pull it away. The wound closed almost instantly, leaving nothing but a faint mark that glowed faint red. Suria's breathing slowed. She rose unsteadily, her eyes wider than before, pupils dilated as if her mind was spinning. Daniel stepped back, uneasy. "Are you all right?" he asked carefully. She nodded, but her voice shook. "It went inside." The forest seemed to hold its breath. He had read about parasites in reports, creatures that could control hosts, but those were just stories. Seeing it happen was different. Her fingers twitched as though invisible strings pulled them. She pressed her chest, her breathing quick and heavy. Daniel reached out but stopped halfway, unsure if touching her was safe. "We should return," he said, his voice low. "You need a medic." "No," she whispered sharply, her head snapping toward him. Her eyes glowed faintly now, veins shimmering beneath her skin. "If I return, they will kill me. No cure. No chance. Only fire." Daniel's stomach tightened. That was how her people dealt with infection. Burn the host before the parasite spread. He stared at her trembling body, realizing she was fighting something inside her. Already, sweat dripped from her forehead, though the night air was cold. She staggered forward, clutching his arm as if he was the only thing keeping her from collapsing. Her grip was too strong. Daniel winced, pulling back slightly, business, but her nails dug into his sleeve. "It's in me," she muttered, her voice heavy, her breath hot. It wants to move." The words froze him. Parasites didn't just feed, they spread. He scanned the trees nervously, half expecting more of those slick creatures to crawl out from the shadows. But the jungle was still, only her ragged breathing breaking the silence. Syria suddenly dropped to her knees again, clutching her stomach. Her back arched, and she cried out, the sound raw and piercing. Her body shook, as if an invisible force pulled her from inside. Daniel crouched beside her, torn between fear and instinct. He pressed his hand against her shoulder, steadying her. She looked up at him then, her face twisted between pain and something else, an intensity in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Her hand shot up, grabbing his wrist. Her skin burned against his. "Don't leave," she whispered, almost a command. "It fears you, but it also pushes me toward you." Daniel's heart pounded. He had no training for this, no protocol. All he knew was that something unnatural had just bonded with her, and now it was pulling strings inside her body. He tried to focus on logic. Parasites wanted hosts. Parasites wanted survival. But why did it make her act like this? Drawn, restless, trembling as if her veins burned? Syria leaned closer, her breath brushing his face. For a second, it looked like she would collapse into him, but she forced herself back, clawing at the soil until her fingers bled. "I can't control it," she gasped. "I feel wrong. My mind, it's not mine." Daniel stood quickly, pulling her up with him. "Then we'll find a cure. We'll cut it out if we have to." She stared at him with a strange mixture of fear and something darker, something hungry, before shaking her head. "You don't understand. Once it is inside, it doesn't let go. It grows. It whispers." She pressed her hands to her head, trembling as her body jerked in small spasms. "It tells me what it wants, and what it wants is through me." The shadows seemed to lean closer, the jungle watching as if waiting for the end. Daniel tightened his grip on her arm, his resolve hardening. He had faced storms, starvation, and alien beasts, but this was different. This was inside her, unseen yet powerful. Syria's breathing slowed again, her eyes locking on his. Sweat rolled down her temple, her lips parted as if words fought to escape. She finally spoke in a low voice that sent a chill through him. "If I lose control, you must stop me." Daniel nodded, though the thought clawed at him. He had no idea how to stop something that lived in the blood, but he couldn't abandon her. Not here. Not like this. Above them, the alien trees shifted, glowing spores drifting down like falling embers. The jungle whispered with unseen life, but all Daniel could hear was her pulse racing under his hand, and the heavy silence of the parasite waiting inside her, biding its time. Syria's steps were uneven as they moved deeper through the glowing forest. Her breathing came fast, and sweat slid down her skin, though the air was cool. Daniel kept close, his eyes never leaving her. Something in her had changed after the bite, and every movement reminded him of it. Her hands trembled, her eyes flashed with strange light, and sometimes she clutched at her chest as if fighting against invisible chains. "Keep walking," Daniel urged quietly, but his own voice was tense. He didn't know what would happen if she stopped, and he didn't want to find out. Suddenly she froze, her body stiffening like stone. Her back arched slightly, and her nails dragged along the bark of a nearby tree, scraping deep grooves into it. She inhaled sharply, her voice cracking. "It's stronger now, pushing harder." Daniel stepped in front of her. "Then fight it. You're stronger than this thing." Her lips trembled, and for a moment it looked like she might listen, but then her eyes focused on him in a way that made his stomach twist. The glow in them wasn't natural anymore. It was hungry, almost desperate. She staggered closer, gripping his arm tightly. Her nails cut into his sleeve as she whispered, "It wants you." The words made him pull back, but she clung harder, her breathing quickening like fire. Daniel tried to steady her, holding her shoulders firm. "Listen to me. That's not you speaking. Don't let it win." Her head jerked side to side as if two forces battled inside her skull. Her veins pulsed faintly with light, crawling down her neck and arms. She gasped and suddenly slammed both hands against his chest, shoving him back into the trunk of a tree. He caught himself, stunned, and saw her standing there, her chest heaving, her body trembling like she was about to tear herself apart. Tears filled her eyes, but they didn't fall. "I can't stop it," she whispered. "It wants to bind. It wants to spread through touch, through me." Daniel's fists clenched. He could almost feel the parasite's intent behind her words, using her voice, twisting it into something unnatural. But there was something else there too. Her own fear, her own fight to resist. That struggle was still alive. He reached out, grabbing her hands before she could hurt herself. Her skin burned under his grip, her pulse racing wild. "Then hold on to me," he said firmly, staring straight into her trembling eyes. "Not it, me." For a second she froze, her body shook violently, her jaw clenched, and she let out a cry that was half pain, half fury, half fury. Then she collapsed against him, her strength giving out. Daniel held her tight as her body spasmed, her breath shallow and quick. She buried her face against his chest, whispering in a broken voice, "Don't let me go. If you let me go, I'll lose everything." Daniel tightened his grip, his eyes scanning the dark jungle around them. The parasite wasn't finished. This was only the beginning, and he knew they were running out of time. The night air was thick, carrying a heavy silence that pressed down on Daniel as he held Saria upright. Her breathing came in sharp bursts, her forehead damp against his chest. Every so often her body jerked as if an unseen current ran through her veins. He could almost feel the parasite moving inside her, coiling and tightening its hold. Suddenly she pushed away from him, stumbling a few steps before clutching her head. Her nails dug into her scalp, and she cried out. "It's inside my thoughts," she gasped. "I hear it whisper. It wants more. It wants you." Daniel's jaw clenched. "Then fight it. Don't listen." She spun toward him, her eyes glowing faintly in the shadows. But they weren't just glowing. They were alive with something primal, something not her own. Her pupils widened unnaturally, and her lips parted as though her breath burned her throat. "I can't fight much longer," she whispered hoarsely. "It makes me want what it wants." She staggered closer, her movements unsteady but driven. Daniel stepped back instinctively, his pulse quickening, but he stopped himself. If he pulled away, she might lose the thin thread of control she still had. He planted his feet and faced her. Her hands trembled as she reached for him, stopping inches from his chest, her claws curling in midair. "I don't know if it's me anymore," she whispered, her voice breaking. "Or just it." Daniel swallowed hard. He had never felt fear quite like this. Not fear of her, but fear of losing her to something invisible and relentless. "Then remember who you are," he said, steady but urgent. You're Saria. You're not a vessel. You're not its puppet. Her eyes flickered, confusion warring with hunger, clarity battling with fire. For a heartbeat, Daniel saw her, just her, before her body jolted again, and she clutched at him desperately. Her nails scraped across his arm, leaving thin red lines through the fabric. If it takes me fully, she gasped, I'll hurt you, and I don't want to hurt you. Daniel grabbed her wrists firmly, pinning her shaking hands between them. Then don't. Use that. Fight it with that fear. Fight it with me. Her lips trembled. She leaned forward until her forehead pressed against his shoulder and her voice was no more than a broken whisper. Stay close. If you pull away, it will win. The jungle around them pulsed with faint light from glowing plants, their shadows stretching long and strange. Daniel kept his arms locked around her trembling form, his mind racing. He didn't know how long she could resist, but one thing was clear. The parasite was learning. It wasn't just feeding, it was adapting, using every weakness it could find, and its hunger was only growing stronger. Syria's voice broke the silence, low and trembling, yet carrying a weight that made Daniel's chest tighten. Do you want to know the truth? Her eyes lifted, glowing faintly, and for the first time he saw tears fall down her cheeks. Before it bit me, I already hated how you made me feel. Daniel froze, unsure if it was her speaking or the parasite twisting her words. Her lips quivered, and she pressed her hands against her chest as though she could crush the fire inside. I told myself humans were weak. I told myself I despised you. But when I looked at you when you didn't walk away from me tonight, I felt something I never wanted to admit. Now the parasite digs into that and twists it. I don't know what is real anymore. Her body leaned forward as if drawn by unseen chains, her voice breaking with a strange mixture of longing and fear. It makes me want you, but what if I already did? Daniel's pulse pounded. He had no answer for her. Her people had always seen humans as lesser, fragile, beneath them. Yet here she was, trembling in his arms, caught between her own hidden feelings and a parasite that amplified them into something dangerous. He gripped her shoulders firmly, forcing her to meet his eyes. Then separate the voices. The parasite only pushes. The truth is what you felt before it ever touched you. Saria shook her head violently, her hair damp with sweat whipping across her face. How? How do I know which part of me is real? Every thought burns. Every breath feels like it isn't mine anymore. Her claws pressed into his arms, trembling between pulling him closer or pushing him away. She shut her eyes and whispered, raw and shaking, if I told you I wanted to stay by your side, would you believe it was me, or would you think it was only this curse inside me? Daniel felt his chest tighten with the weight of her words. He couldn't lie. He didn't know the answer. All he knew was that leaving her now meant surrendering her entirely to the parasite, and that was not an option. He pulled her closer, steadying her before she collapsed again. I'll believe you until you're free of it. After that, we'll see what remains. But right now, I won't let it take you. Her tears hit his chest, her body shaking violently as if the parasite hated his defiance. She gasped and clung to him harder, as though her confession had broken a wall inside her. And in the shadows, the jungle seemed to stir, the faint hum of unseen creatures echoing like whispers, as if the forest itself listened to her confession. Syria collapsed to her knees, her hands clawing at the dirt as if trying to rip the parasite out of herself. Her back arched, every muscle in her body twitching with violent spasms. Daniel dropped beside her, gripping her shoulders to stop her from tearing her own skin. Her eyes snapped open, glowing brighter now, veins of light racing across her arms and neck. It's winning, she hissed, her voice layered like two voices speaking at once. I can feel it taking more. Soon, there will be nothing left of me. Daniel tightened his hold on her arms, his own heart pounding like thunder. Then fight harder. You're still here. I can hear you. Her head jerked, eyes wild, and for a moment her lips curled into a smile that wasn't hers. Why fight? The layered voice whispered. She is mine. Through her, I can live, and through you, I can spread. Daniel's blood ran cold. The parasite was speaking through her now, taunting, testing him. He gritted his teeth and leaned close. You don't own her. She's stronger than you think. Her body shook, her true voice crying out beneath the parasite's control. Daniel, stop me, before I... Her words cut off as her hand shot forward, slamming against his chest with unnatural force, pinning him to the ground. Her strength was far greater than her frame should allow, and he felt the air rush out of his lungs. Her face hovered inches from his, her expression torn between agony and something feral. "I don't want this," she screamed, her tears dripping onto his skin. "But it's using me. It's making me feel things, making me want things." Daniel forced his arm up, grabbing her wrist even as her claws dug dangerously close to his throat. He could see the battle in her eyes, flashes of the Saria he knew breaking through the parasite's madness. "Then fight with me," he growled, pushing against her weight. "Don't let it turn you into its puppet." Her body convulsed, her grip loosening for a second. She collapsed to the side, clutching her stomach, sobbing uncontrollably. "It's inside every vein, every thought. I don't know how long I can keep pushing it back." Daniel knelt beside her, sweat dripping from his brow. "Then we'll find a way to rip it out. I won't let you fall to it. Not while I'm here." Her eyes flickered toward him, full of desperation and fear, but also a spark of something defiant. She pressed her bloody fingertips to his hand, whispering hoarsely, "If I lose completely, promise me you'll end it." Daniel's throat tightened, but he didn't look away. "I promise you this, I won't let it win." The forest wind picked up, rustling the glowing leaves around them. Saria's body trembled as she fought against the invasion in her veins, but Daniel knew the real war wasn't in the jungle, it was raging inside her. And the parasite wasn't about to let go without a brutal fight. Saria's body burned with fever, her skin hot beneath Daniel's hands as he tried to keep her steady. She swayed, her breath sharp and uneven, her veins glowing faintly like rivers of fire running beneath her skin. He had seen wounds, poisons, even alien sicknesses, but nothing like this. The parasite was feeding, twisting, and growing stronger every moment. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "There is a way, but it will break me." Daniel's heart pounded. "Tell me." She shook violently, clutching her sides. "An herb deep in this forest. My people call it the root of agony. If I take it, the parasite will burn, but so will I. Half who try it die screaming." Daniel's jaw tightened. He had no other choice. If she stayed like this, she would be gone before sunrise. "Then we'll find it," he said firmly. Her glowing eyes met his, uncertain but desperate. She staggered as they moved, every step heavier, every breath thinner. The jungle closed around them, branches tangling above, strange spores falling like drifting ash. Daniel's knife cut the vines ahead, but every sound behind him made him think of the parasite whispering through her. At last, Syria collapsed against a fallen trunk, her voice barely audible. "There, the roots grow near the pools of blue fire." She pointed weakly, her hand trembling so much it almost didn't lift. Daniel left her only long enough to sprint toward the faint glow in the distance. The ground cracked with steam, and there he saw them, roots coiling in the soil like veins, glowing with pale blue light. He tore them free, their surface slick and strange, and hurried back. Saria's eyes were dimming, her body jerking in small violent spasms. He knelt, pressing the root to her lips. "Eat, now." She stared at it as if it were poison, her teeth clenched. "It will feel like fire inside me." Daniel held her steady. "Then let it burn. Better fire than losing yourself." With trembling hands, she took the root and bit down. At once, her body arched, a scream ripping from her throat. The glow in her veins flared brighter, pulsing wildly as if the parasite was fighting back. Daniel held her as she thrashed, pinning her against the earth so she wouldn't tear herself apart. Her cries shook the jungle, echoing like an animal in its death throes. Light spread from her chest, flashing across her skin in violent waves. Daniel could only cling tighter, whispering through gritted teeth, "Hold on, fight it, don't let go." Her nails clawed into the dirt, her body convulsing as the root's fire spread deeper. For a terrifying moment, Daniel thought her heart would stop. But then the glow flickered, the light in her veins dimming, and she collapsed limply into his arms, her body shaking but alive. Her eyes fluttered open, weak but clearer, her voice no more than a whisper. "It's not gone, but it's weaker." Daniel pressed his forehead to hers, his chest heaving. The battle wasn't over, but for the first time since the bite, he felt hope clawing its way into the dark. The first rays of dawn cut through the forest canopy, painting the ground in soft gold. Syria lay curled against Daniel, her body trembling from the ordeal. Yet her eyes were sharper, clearer than they had been in days. The parasite still lurked inside her, but its power was fractured, struggling against her will. Daniel helped her to her feet, supporting her weight as they moved slowly through the dense undergrowth. Every sound made her flinch. Every shadow seemed alive with the parasite's whispers. Yet with each step, the fear in her eyes was mingled with something new: determination. "We need to leave this place," Daniel said, his voice low but firm. "It will come for you if we stay." Syria nodded, gripping his arm tightly. I can control it better now," she admitted, her voice quivering. "But if I let my guard slip—" She trailed off, the implication clear. They walked in silence, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the occasional distant cry of a forest predator. The jungle that had once seemed endless and threatening now felt like a gauntlet, every step a reminder that the parasite was still fighting from within her. Suddenly the ground shuddered beneath them, a low growl vibrating through the soil. Syria froze, her body stiffening, and her eyes glowed faintly with the parasite's light. Daniel's hand shot to her shoulder. "Stay with me," he whispered, knowing the moment of truth had come. From the shadows emerged a creature unlike any they had seen, twisted limbs, glowing eyes, and a body that seemed partially made of the same parasitic energy now inside Syria. It hissed, its voice layered with the same seductive, cruel tones she had heard inside herself. The parasite inside her screamed in response, pulling at her mind, demanding surrender. Syria fell to her knees, shaking violently, fighting the pull. Daniel crouched beside her, gripping her hands. "No," he growled. "Not today. You are not hers. You are Syria. Fight!" Her teeth clenched, fists digging into the dirt, and with a final, shuddering cry, she forced the parasite back into the recesses of her mind. The creature shrieked, a sound that cut through the air like lightning, then collapsed into a heap of writhing shadows that dissolved under the sunlight. Syria fell into Daniel's arms, exhausted, her body trembling, yet free. Her eyes met his, filled with tears, relief, and something deeper: gratitude, trust, and perhaps the first spark of hope for the future. "It's finally gone," she whispered. Daniel held her close, feeling her heartbeat steady at last. "No," he said softly. "It's not just gone. You survived, you fought, and you're still here." They moved slowly back toward the clearing where they had first encountered the parasite, the jungle now quiet, as if acknowledging the battle had ended. Syria took a deep breath, feeling the warm sunlight on her skin, savoring the sensation of control over her own body for the first time in days. "I don't know what comes next," she admitted, still leaning on him, "but I know I can face it. With you." Daniel nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "We'll face it together. No parasite, no creature, nothing can take you from me now." As they walked into the open, the wind brushing against their faces, the forest seemed to breathe around them, the shadows retreating. Syria's steps were unsteady but firm, each one a declaration that she was no longer a victim. She had fought through the darkness, survived the parasite's control, and reclaimed herself. The sun rose higher, casting light on the path ahead, and for the first time since the bite, Syria felt a strange peace settle inside her. She was free, and with Daniel by her side, she knew nothing could break her again. The forest faded behind them as they moved toward an uncertain future. But one thing was clear: the parasite's power had been defeated, and the bond between human and alien had become unbreakable. Together, they would face whatever the galaxy dared to throw at them.